And we are live. Hello and welcome to the show. Anybody who's watching this on the replay, welcome to you. Thanks for joining. And it's Troy Francis. I'm here in a secret location somewhere in the south of England, outside of London. And I wanted to do a quick live stream today to talk about intimacy because it's something that's been on my mind. And I thought as well, look, it's Christmas Eve, obviously 24th of December. I thought it'd be nice to jump on and to do a stream. So if anyone's got any questions about the bachelor lifestyle, about intimacy, or about dating, or about really anything else that we talk about on this channel, then please put them into the chat and I will get around to those as we go through. Okay. What else? I am thinking that we may do one of these tomorrow as well for Christmas Day. So we may do one tomorrow, but it's going to be later on in the day if we do. Okay. So let me know in the chat if that's something of interest to you. As I say, it's going to be more like 5 or 6 p.m. EST probably, which is about 9 or 10 p.m. in the UK, if we do that. But I thought it'd be nice to jump on Christmas Day. I mean, I think daytime we all tend to be quite busy, don't we? Tend to be opening the presents, eating, family stuff. Later on in the day, though, maybe, we've got a little bit of a loose end. So it might be nice to jump on then as well. Little bit of moral support during the holidays, because obviously the holidays are different for everybody, whether you having a great time or not. But maybe you want to have a think about your dating life, your lifestyle in general, where you're going with it. Obviously, it's a time of reflection, isn't it? Christmas. We're looking ahead to the new year. We're looking ahead to what we're going to be doing in 2023. So I wanted to talk about this issue of intimacy with the bachelor lifestyle. And the reason I want to talk about that is because basically it's been on my mind recently. It's one of the key themes, I suppose, of this channel in a sense. Excuse me, let me just grab this. Let me just grab this coffee. And let me know if the sound's all right and everything, by the way, if there's any issues with that, let me know. Intimacy, okay? And there is this idea that if you are living a quote-unquote bachelor lifestyle where you are going around and you're dating different people and those relationships are perhaps non-monogamous, or certainly they are quite casual, maybe you're not making huge commitments in each of these relationships, then is that a good thing to be doing? Is that a good thing to be doing? Or is that actually a form of avoidance? Is that just a way to avoid something more meaningful and to avoid something that is more intimate? And this word intimacy, being intimate, this gets thrown around a lot, particularly in mainstream dating advice and by various people from all persuasions. Okay, so is the bachelor lifestyle a way of avoiding intimacy? Now, the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody that I was doing some work with, and this is the kind of thing that comes up quite a lot. So I'm going to talk in general terms, because obviously I wouldn't give away anyone's anonymity or give away personal information, but I'm going to talk in quite general terms. But as I say, this is the kind of question that comes up quite a lot. Excuse me, hang on a sec. Blimey. A little bit of a cold, I think, coming on for Christmas. So basically his question was, he was with a woman. He's with this woman. He's been with her for a period of time, I think a few years since the pandemic. They've been together. They're living together. And just recently, it got to the point where he decided to propose to her. So he proposed to her. Sorry, excuse me. He proposed to her. He'd asked her to marry him. She said yes. She was absolutely delighted. And then, after having done the deed, he started to question himself. And he started to regret, or at least severely question, the decision that he made. He started basically to panic and think, oh shit, what have I done? I've asked this woman to marry me, but do I actually want to do that or not? Now, this kind of scenario is something that comes up, as I say, a lot, right? A lot of guys will be in this same position. They'll be with a woman. They've perhaps been with her for a few years. They've developed feelings for her. They are in love with her. She's in love with them. Perhaps it's often the case. Maybe the sex has died down. Maybe there's not quite that exciting level of intimacy that there was. But nevertheless, there's love between them. She's a good woman. She's got a lot of the characteristics that this person would normally look for. But he's now thinking, well, hang on a minute. I'm only 35. I'm only 40. I'm only 45, whatever. I've still got quite a few good years left yet. Do I actually really want this commitment with this person? Okay. Do I actually really want to sign on the dotted line and be married to this person or be in a long-term monogamous relationship with this woman, which is going to mean that basically I'm not going to have the opportunity to date anybody else. I'm not going to have the opportunity to sleep with anybody else ever again. Now, of course, of course, that's not always necessarily true, because there is a way around that, which is well known to everybody, which is that you cheat. Okay. And actually, that's what's happened in many, many marriages for many, many centuries. Okay. That well, probably both parties, but for our purposes, the man makes that commitment, gets married to the woman, and then he has mistresses and affairs in the background. Why does that happen so frequently? Well, obviously it happens frequently because the reality of human nature is there is this desire for variety. There is this desire to have sexual intercourse and sexual intimacy with a wide range of people, right? We're not really wired to just have it with one person, okay, as much as that might be a nice idea, which is why people end up cheating and why infidelities happen and ultimately why relationships end, okay? So the question then is, which way do you choose? Because one possible solution, and it's not one I recommend, I'm not coming on here and saying you should cheat on your partner. I think that's a terrible thing to do. But that is one solution that in the end people select, which is, okay, I want the security. I love this person. I would like to settle down with her. I would like to maybe build a family with her. But at the same time, and people don't even admit this to themselves, but what's actually happening is that inside they know they also want this variety, and so they'll go and cheat. Okay, so that's one thing that you can possibly do. It's one thing you can do, and it's one thing a lot of people end up doing. Or the other thing that you can do is you can remain single, and you can be a bachelor, and you can be a player, or whatever you want to call it, and you can just carry on with that lifestyle. Okay, you can just carry on with the lifestyle of dating around, being non-monogamous, not settling with one particular partner, and having more casual dating experiences. Okay. There is, of course, a middle ground, I suppose, which is you get into a long-term relationship with somebody and you don't marry. But I'm not here to talk about marriage as such today. I'm more talking about, okay, do you have a long-term relationship that's committed versus dating around? Okay, that's really what we're talking about here. So, as I say, the other option is that you remain single and you date around and you have a jolly good time. And there's lots of different partners in the frame, but you're not really committing seriously to one particular person. And that probably is the kind of lifestyle that I have selected. It's not necessarily what I set out to do when I was younger. I didn't necessarily think, oh, I'm just going to have this, non-committal lifestyle for my entire life. Like many people, I suppose I imagined that I would be married and have those kind of responsibilities and those kind of obligations. It hasn't happened yet. And as I said in a video that I made the other day, if you want to look at what somebody wants, ultimately you've got to look at what they do. Okay. I could sit here. I mean, I wouldn't, but I could sit here until I was blue in the face and say, oh, I'm just looking to meet that special someone. I'm looking to, settle down, blah, blah, blah. But then all you'd have to do would be to look at my actual behavior. We'll think, okay, fine, he's saying that, but what does he actually do? And obviously what I've actually done over the years is to remain single and to be in relationships of varying degrees of commitment. I have been in committed monogamous relationships, okay? I absolutely have. I have loved women. I have been in love. I have been in serious relationships. But I've also been in a lot of kind of more casual things, okay? And certainly I've treated it perhaps more casually than I should have done on my end. All right. So if you look at my actual behavior, what it would suggest that I want is to remain non-monogamous and unattached. Okay. So we've got some questions here. I'm just going to turn off this camera 1 second. We've got some questions here. So Jeffrey says, Troy, have you ever cold approached in front of your co-workers or non-game related friends, and how did they react to your doing it? Well, my co-workers are people in this industry, aren't they? I don't have a corporate job anymore. So yes, I have. But if my co-worker is James Tusk, then he's obviously not going to think anything of it, right? Non-game related friends. Yeah, probably over the years. I think they would think, oh, that was a ballsy thing to do. That was kind of funny. Oh, Troy's just that kind of guy. He does these crazy ballsy things. That's cool. I don't think they think anything hugely of it. I mean, you're using this language, cold approach and game, and we all know what you mean. I use those terms from time to time myself, but really we should get away from using that kind of terminology, because it's making this seem like something that's very strange and very unusual, some kind of secret society thing that only a few people know about. And of course it isn't, because what we're talking about ultimately is you see somebody that's attractive and you go to have a conversation with her. For some people, for a lot of people, that is very difficult. That's very challenging. They're not going to do that because they don't have the confidence. They fear rejection. But it doesn't make the thing itself hugely abnormal. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I've been out with friends and we've been in, say, like a German beer hall, and there's a table over here and there's a cute girl, and I go over and have a conversation with her. My friend might think, wow, that was quite ballsy. I wouldn't have done that. He's got some guts. But they don't think it's some hugely weird thing, because it isn't. It's just me going and having a conversation. So I think how we think about this stuff is very important. Okay. But as I say, I don't really have colleagues who are non-game related, unless you count someone like Aaron Clary, who is not a dating person as such. But, I mean, like I say, all the people that I sort of nominally work with are kind of somehow related to this now. So, yeah. Where were we in terms of the topic? Right. Okay. So if you then look at somebody like me and you say, okay, so he's remained unmarried. He has dated multiple people, in different countries and all this kind of stuff. And that's been his modus operandi over a period of years. Is that avoiding intimacy, or is that a good thing? Or is it this thing that we talk about called avoiding intimacy? Okay. And what does that mean? And is that a bad thing? Okay. This is the thing that fascinates me. And as I say, again, coming around to why I'm talking about this. So the conversations I've had recently with various clients, various people I'm working with about this kind of thing. Somebody says to me, okay, so I'm with this woman. She's amazing. She's great. She's everything I ever dreamed of. She could be the perfect mother of my children, but the spark's kind of gone. And I'm thinking, should I just go, I could just go to Colombia and I could just date different girls and have a great time. So do I really want to marry this woman? Do I really want to stay a committed thing with this woman? Other people, not me, I wouldn't make this, I wouldn't say this, but other people, and particularly more like mainstream kind of, sorry, just checking something. I think more kind of mainstream coaches might say, well, that person is seeking to avoid intimacy, okay? Because the relationship that they've got, that special relationship with one person, that is an opportunity to be intimate with somebody. That is an opportunity to really, I suppose, get to know that particular person, to become intimate with that person, to become, I suppose, vulnerable to that person, to show your whole personality, to really reveal yourself to another human being, okay? And off the back of that, to develop something that's richer and, they would argue, more meaningful, right? If that makes sense. Whereas, if you're somebody who just goes to different cities and dates different people and lives this kind of itinerant lifestyle, then are you, for some reason, for some flaw in your psyche, in your personality, are you avoiding that wonderful intimacy that is otherwise open to you? Okay. So this is the thing, isn't it, really? And I have a view on this, and I'm going to explain what my view is in a moment. But of course, we have to acknowledge that whatever my view on this thing may be, it's inevitably going to be covered. Sorry, right? It's inevitably going to be coloured by my own experiences and my own preferences, okay, and probably my own blind spots as well, because we've all got blind spots with this stuff, I believe. We all tell ourselves stories, right? We all try to make sense of our existence by way of narrative, okay? And I do the same thing. I will say, well, this is how life is, and this is why I behave in this way, and that makes sense for me, okay? But am I right or am I wrong? Who knows? Very hard to know unless you can step outside of yourself, okay? I'm just having a look at some of these comments. Anybody got any more questions or comments? Put them in the chat, by the way. Raymond's married for 30 years, kids grown up, and my ex-wife just called it a day. We were two rough stones who rubbed each other smooth and slipped away from each other. Well, that's pretty sad, isn't it? It's quite poetic way of putting it. Sad times, right? So they were married for 30 years. So, and this is the point, really, because here's a guy. So you get a lot of people online who say, oh, no, get married. You've got to do the right thing. Don't be afraid of intimacy. Don't be a Peter Pan. Don't run away from intimacy. Move towards it instead. Okay. And that's fine, right? That makes sense. I get what they're saying. But I'm going to actually just turn down. I don't know what the quality of this is like. Let me know what the quality of the picture's like, guys, because I've put it onto high definition, but I might take it down a bit just so that we can. It might improve the quality a little bit. Okay, let me know if the quality improves. But yeah, so where were we? God, I got fucking cold today, guys. Sorry about this. So there's this idea that there is this great sort of thing called intimacy. And if you don't covet intimacy, then you're somehow afraid, or you're a man-child, or you are, whatever else, a Peter Pan, whatever, however you want to put it, okay? And, I get that viewpoint. I understand it intellectually. But here we have somebody in the chat on this very show who was married for 30 years. And now his wife's called it a day. His ex-wife has called time on the relationship, okay? So, and here's my key question, right? What is the value of intimacy if, in the end, the person that you're intimate with could just say, all right, anyway, see you later. It was nice knowing you, okay? Well, then where does that intimacy go? All those shared memories, that the fact you were vulnerable with her, the fact that she was vulnerable with you, you revealed yourselves to each other, it all kind of just disappears into smoke, doesn't it? It all becomes irrelevant. I always think about my father, who was married to my stepmother for something like 2 decades, I think, and they ended up divorcing. And I have no doubt their relationship was intimate in various ways. I'm sure that they shared a lot of themselves with one another, but they never speak anymore. So this much lauded thing called intimacy, now they probably don't even like each other. They probably try to avoid thinking about one another. So what was really the value of that intimacy? I suppose you could say, well, okay, fine, but at the time it was valuable. At the time, great thing. It seems to me to be pretty ephemeral, right? It seems to me to be pretty ephemeral. Now, on the converse side of things, I believe you could also experience intimacy with people on a more casual basis, okay? I don't think you need to be with somebody for 20 years to experience some form of intimacy with them. I mean, sex is obviously is physical intimacy. You could argue that physical intimacy with sex doesn't mean emotional intimacy, right? Because you can have sex with people and you've got no emotion or feeling for them at all. So that's absolutely true. But if you spend a bit of time with people, you date them, we're not talking about one night stands here, but if you sort of spend a bit of time with somebody and you go on some trips together, you have some days out together, you share things with her, then there is some intimacy there. Okay, there is intimacy there. Okay, the fact that you haven't been with her for 25 years doesn't preclude the fact that there is intimacy as a part of that relationship. Okay, but what you're not doing is putting yourself on the hook for 25 years, only to have her walking out of the door on, year 26 and saying, see you later. Okay. And that, on all of that intimacy that you've had becomes sort of null and void in a way, or it becomes too painful to think about. I hope that this makes sense. I don't know. Put comments in the box, because I want to know what people think about this. I think what I'm saying is that, yes, intimacy, it sounds great. But if the person just ups and leaves you after a decade or a couple of decades, then was it really worth it, right? Is it really something to aspire to? Because we know for the most part that these relationships just end, right? Most relationships do end. Most marriages end in divorce, sadly. This is just the way it is. Why does that happen? Well, it happens because people are not really, I don't want to say it's not natural to be monogamous, because I think that's a misuse of the term, but certainly it's very difficult for human beings to be monogamous because we all crave variety. All right, not just women, not just men, we all crave variety. We like security and we like variety, and we like both of them at the same time. And that is the problem. That's where all of these issues come from. Okay, because it's a dual thing, and we all have it, right? We all want both of the things at the same time. So, I mean, I was talking to a woman quite recently, actually, and she was telling me about her partner, her boyfriend that she'd been with, and she'd been saying, and this, obviously this is a very attractive guy who's well put together, whatever. They've been together for a year and a half or something, and she told me that even after that time, she was fantasizing about other guys. Okay, even after that period of time, that short period of time, she was fantasizing about other guys. So, she didn't act on it. She didn't cheat on him, as far as she said, but she was thinking about other guys. So the truth is, underneath all of the pretty lies, underneath the facade of society, the truth of the matter is that actually all of us, we like that particular one person. We want to spend time with them. We find them attractive, but we also have this interest in other people as well. And so it's not a very good foundation for something long term. And yes, you could then, and then we try to build this castle on top of that rather shaky foundation. So we try to sort of, we build then a marriage, or we build a long-term relationship, okay? And that is supposed to be the aspiration of society, that society approves of. That is the right thing to do, to be in a long-term relationship. That's intimacy, that's the mature thing, that's growing up, that's doing the right thing. But it's built on this foundation whereby the participants in that coupling actually are spending a lot of their time looking out the window at other people. So it just seems to me that in lauding intimacy, we are lauding something that is in itself built on a foundation that is rocky. Okay. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do think, as I said, that intimacy can also be achieved even in more short-term couplings. All right. We're not talking about being a hermetically sealed kind of hermit who never interacts with other members of the human race. It's not about that. It's just the manner in which you achieve your intimacy, I think, is the important thing. So let's have a look through at some of these comments. So LT, would having a proposition for her, like offering money to her in the approach, be a more effective method rather than going up with nothing to offer? No. I think I don't think going up to women and offering them money is the right thing to do. No. If you were to move to a new city across the country with little connections, what tips would you have to attract people and be successful? Well, you have to be social. You have to be social. You have to go out there and talk to a lot of people. The process is never any different. I mean, all that we are preaching now really is to go out and be social, to go out and talk to other human beings. Okay. And so you would do exactly the same thing. If I moved to a different city in a different country, I would go out, I would spend time socializing, getting to know new people. And through that process, I would inevitably bring new people into my life. You could also use a bit of online. There are also a number of online dating apps that you can use. We all know what they are. I'm not going to go through the relative merits of them at the moment. I tend not to use things like Tinder and Bumble and stuff like that. But we have been experimenting with some other platforms that have been very interesting. So, we've also got the internet, which is hugely beneficial. So, yeah, it's about being social, basically, going out there, making things happen for yourself. Okay. Jeffrey, can a woman misuse the new law that prohibits anyone to approach a woman on the street now in the UK? Well, look at the wording of the law. I don't think it says precisely that. What does it precisely say? Go and have a look at the wording. But could a woman misuse it? Yes, absolutely. Jeffrey then says, will there be any places to approach women in London on Christmas Day? I don't know, but I think Christmas Day actually is quite busy. You do get quite a few people out and about around the main touristy areas like Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus, stuff like that. So just check out those areas. And then JD says Hinge has the best UI, in my opinion. What else do we have here? RJ Flores, good to see you, sir. I'm currently at my ex-girlfriend's house with my young son for Christmas. As a result of being fired from the industry I was working in, I'm now working in a much less well-paid job, and this was, and he doesn't finish, but maybe, we'll see. Maybe this is him now. Oh, okay. He hasn't finished the comment. Maybe what he was going to say, and Mr. Flores comments quite a lot, so good to see you. Thank you very much for the support. Maybe he was going to say that's the reason she's his ex-girlfriend, but I don't know. Let's find out. Maybe he'll comment further. And then P. Roy, how would you approach a relationship 6 months in, knowing deep down at some point you crave that variety and adventure in the future, yet enjoy the time spent with her? Well, I mean, story of my life, mate, to be honest. With some difficulty, I think you just put it out of your mind and enjoy the time. I mean, if you're with somebody now, particularly it's Christmas Eve, whatever, and you've been with her for 6 months and you kind of know deep down that perhaps this isn't going to last forever because you're going to want to do other things. Well, in practical terms, I would forget about it for this weekend and enjoy Christmas and, probably through New Year, just enjoy the good times, the good feelings. And then you want to start thinking seriously about it, maybe in the new year, and figure out, okay, so realistically, is this right for me? And if it isn't, what is your exit plan going to look like? Now, the danger is, the difficulty is, if you're anything like me, you're just going to keep it going for ad infinitum until finally something forces your hand, right? I mean, whereas actually, really, the reality is, if you're in a relationship and it's not gonna last, and it's probably not the right thing for you, then it's not going to be the right thing for her either. And really, you should find a way to get out of it sooner rather than later. Okay, you should try and get out of it sooner rather than later. Easier said than done. Okay, easier said than done, because you've got feelings for her. You like her. You probably like being around her. You probably like being intimate with her. Whatever. Fair enough. But really, you need to find a way to get out of it, because the longer you let it go on, the harder it's going to be to get out of it, and the more messy it's going to be when you try to get out of it, and it doesn't lead in a good direction. Okay. Any more questions? Any more comments? Stick them in the chat, please. We'll go through them. Young Villain says, how do you balance work and travel and spinning plates? Well, for me personally, it's with some difficulty, actually, because the travel side of things, if you're going to travel a lot, I find it quite tiring and I find it quite debilitating. Now, people like James Tusk seems a bit more hardened to it. Although I think we all suffer from jet lag and so on. And, if you fly anywhere, even a short flight in Europe, actually, you kind of ruin a day, even a 2-hour flight, because you've got to get to the airport early. You're messing around, then, you do the flight. And even if there's no even if there's no delays, then on the other side, then you've got to get from the airport to where you're staying, check in, blah, blah, blah. You kind of ruin a whole day, even with a short flight. If you're flying for 15 hours, then that is, with a time difference, then that is quite a major time investment, because then the next day you're probably going to be tired, blah, blah, blah. So traveling is quite tiring and it's quite debilitating, and that makes scheduling your week and your days more problematic. Work is you've got to get into a routine, I think, is the main thing. But I mean, obviously my work is now largely based around the lifestyle, so that helps me a bit, because if I'm traveling somewhere, then I can create some content, and that's sort of part of my job. But how do I put it? But the issue that I have is, if I go to a cool new place, there's a tendency for me to want to go and explore that place, you know? So if I'm in a new city, it's like, oh, I should go and explore the city. And that's going to take away time from the work. So I find actually I'm most productive when I'm sitting around in London, or, you know, I'm sitting around in a base for a period of time. I can get on with the work. And then the relationships, dating and stuff like that, you kind of got to fit it in around the sides, I think, really. So the answer is, with some difficulty, it is doable, but I think ultimately I'm most productive when I'm sitting in my home base. Alex says maybe the swinging 60s had it right. Oh, yeah, baby. And then Jeffrey says, don't you ever get bored of approaching? Don't you take any long periods of not approaching? Yeah, of course I do. I'm not really... If you watch my videos earlier this year, I was banging on in all my videos about how I was sick of dating. I mean, I made a whole bunch of... Some of my most popular videos ever have been me saying, oh, fuck, sod all this dating stuff. I'm sick of it. I don't want to do it anymore. So yes, absolutely I do. And look, I mean, I'm in my late 40s. I'm not running around like a blue-ass fly approaching people all the time. It's just not what it's not what I do, you know. You shouldn't... And anyway, here's the thing, right? You shouldn't be approaching women all the time, right? It's an incredibly bad use of your time. It's incredibly poor ROI, and it's low value behavior. Okay, what you should do is get the skill set down so that you can be social, so that in those those occasions when you see somebody that you're attracted to, you're able to go over, have an effective conversation, and exchange contact details and make something happen. Okay, this isn't around spending huge amounts of time approaching people, particularly when you're a bit older. But really, at any age, you know, it's a low value, low ROI activity. Okay, you want to minimize it. You want to become effective, and you want to minimize it. You certainly don't want to be running around like an idiot, just approaching people. No. So, I mean, I tend to meet people personally more in social situations than anything. So it might be at a bar, it might be at a restaurant, it might be at an event, it might be in a coffee shop or something or a hotel lobby or something like this. I'm more likely to meet people in that circumstance, you know, rather than saying, right, I'm going to go down to the shopping mall or something like that, which is, you know, it's just, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. Because the young villain, besides posting pics of yourself and memes, what other things can you post on social media that are DHV? Are you talking about me personally? That's all I post on my Troy Francis Instagram. Well, yes. So there's a very obvious answer to this, which is on stories, you want to be posting pictures of what you're doing, right? So if you're traveling a lot, for example, then you want to be posting stories of the places that you're going to. And even if you're not traveling, if you're going out in the evening or you're doing this, you're doing that, you want to be putting it onto your stories, posting videos, photographs, etc., not necessarily of you, right? Just of the locations, just of the place, because what you want to be doing is giving the impression of like, oh, wow, this guy's living a really cool lifestyle. He's doing all these interesting, exciting things. That is a DHV. So for people who aren't aware of that acronym, DHV means demonstration of higher value. Okay, it's an old-fashioned term to say making yourself look good, basically. So yeah, if you want to demonstrate higher value, take a video of a really cool restaurant you're in, or a really cool bar, or the city where you've traveled to. You know, takes even like the art gallery or the museum or whatever, right? Because then people looking at those stories are going to think, wow, this is cool. This guy goes to some cool places. He's got a cool lifestyle. That is a DHV. Okay. I mean, and probably that more than pictures of yourself, and even more than pictures of yourself standing in front of a Lambo or something like that. Because, yeah, people think that's cool. But ultimately, what people, I think, really want is freedom and the ability to have cool experiences. And if you can show that you are having cool experiences, that's going to impress a lot of people more. That's going to make people think, wow, this is super cool. I want to be part of that lifestyle. And that's really what you want to do. You want to be not trying to draw people into your lifestyle, but you want to be showcasing an attractive lifestyle that people would like to be a part of. Alex says, if James Bond didn't have focus, Spectre would have brought the world to its knees. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you've got to have focus, right? You can't just be having sex with the Bond girls. You've got to be, you've got to be actually doing your real job as well. I mean, all I'm interested in today is social skills, okay? And having a degree of emotional intelligence and empathy, the ability to listen empathetically and to communicate effectively, okay? Those are the key things, all right? All of this nonsense about game and cold approach and blah, blah, blah. I mean, quite frankly, they're outdated terms, and really we should be moving away from them, because this is about being a normal person who is of high value because you're working on the other things. What are the other things? Money, muscles, game, frame. Okay, you're working on that stuff consistently and continuously. Okay, so you are a high value version of yourself, but you also have social intelligence. You also have the ability to socialize in an effective manner. Okay, and through that, and maybe a little bit of online as well, you're able to bring new people into your life. This is what this is about. Okay, all the other stuff is kind of nonsensical and kind of a bit embarrassing, and we want to move away from that. Okay, this is about, I mean, I have my own program, right, where I teach guys this stuff called Social Attraction System. And basically, it's front-loaded value plus mobility plus communication skills equals dating and social success. Okay? So I'll say it again. Front-loaded value. So do you have value? Do you present as having value? Plus mobility. Okay? That is moving around, going to different places, traveling. Plus communication skills. Okay? High-level communication skills equals social and dating success. All right. That's what it comes down to. It's a very simple formula. I mean, there's a lot to learn, but when you reduce it down to that formula, it's very simple. That's what you need. You don't need to be watching old creepy, weird videos of, people doing stuff. So Daniel says, in game, how do you deal internally with a lot of work and little in return? Well, he's using that word game again, isn't he? Well, I think firstly, you want to have a look at why are you getting little in return? Why are you not getting the results that you want? I mean, well, even before that, you want to be figuring out, okay, so how much am I doing? How many approaches am I doing? How much socializing am I actually doing? And of that, what are the results? So you want to sort of break it down and find out actually if it is quite little in return. And you can make that comparison with other people. We always say about 30 approaches would equal one new partner for the most part, on average. So, you've got to measure yourself up to that. And then you've got to think, okay, so what is it? If it is low, you're not getting much in return. Why is that? At what point in the process are you messing up? Now, or not messing up, but where's the weak link here? Now, actually, guys we work with, they think there are guys who know a lot about this stuff, right? They've studied videos, they've studied books, they've listened to podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And they think, oh, I know all about this stuff. But actually, then when you see them doing interactions, they're making very, very basic errors. Okay. They're doing things that, or at least they're not showcasing themselves in the best possible way. So it's very likely there are things that you could tweak in order to be getting better results. Okay. So that's the second thing. But then the next thing I would say is, well, I would rather take 100 shots at the goal and score one goal. At least that you scored a goal. Great. Amazing. The rest of it doesn't really matter. The rest of it is just a process. You've got to build process into your life. And You've got to build process into your life and just make this a part of your everyday reality. Okay. Troy, was that recent video you took in front of the bus stop taken in Greenford? Yes, it was. What's your personal top 5 travel essentials? In what sense? In what regard? Do you mean things to take with you, or places to go, or I don't know? I'm not sure what you. I'm not sure what the meaning of that is. And are you planning any future workshops in the US? Possibly. Drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we can have a chat. It's troy@realtroyfrancis.com. It depends whereabouts you are, but yeah, absolutely. I should be over in the US next year, potentially quite early next year, actually. So drop me an email and we can discuss that further. All right, well, we've done about 40 minutes. So if anyone's got any further questions, drop them in. Anyway, so this whole thing about intimacy, I think intimacy is one of those kind of non-specific words that people throw in there. And I think it sounds very nice. Oh yeah, you're, or they'll say, he's afraid of intimacy. Or, like, what about intimacy? Why don't you want intimacy? It sounds very nice. It sounds like the sort of thing we should aspire to. But in reality, what does it really mean? If the woman that you're intimate with could just up and leave after 15 years anyway, it just seems a bit pointless, to be frank. Particularly in view of the fact, as I said, I believe that you could be intimate with people who you have much shorter term couplings or relationships with anyway. So that's my take. But I mean, people will watch this and they'll say, well, that's him. He's got issues. He's he is affected. He is operating from a point of personal bias, which is probably true. Okay. So obviously you have to make your own decisions on this stuff. But I just think intimacy is one of those words. It sounds good, but actually, when you look at the reality of what's happening out there, what does it really mean in the big scheme of things? So LT says, I frequent that restaurant behind it called Taste of Afghanistan a lot. Could see you one day, Troy. Ha ha. Well, actually, yeah, because I have been in Taste of Afghanistan, actually in Greenford, but we didn't eat in there. But or did we? I have been in there. I quite like to eat in there sometime. I've got a friend who lives around there, that's all. So I go there sometimes. I'm not based there or anything, but I do sometimes go there. So, yeah. And interestingly enough, Greenford fans, if anybody knows Greenford in... well, it's in London, really, isn't it? But it's sort of Middlesex. I didn't realise, but the model Jordan Dunn. If you guys know this model called Jordan Dunn, very very pretty girl, very successful model for the last 10 years or so. She's actually from Greenford, so there's definitely some quality there. And then P. Roy says, so what is the goal when meeting someone new if you know you'll probably eventually desire that variety elsewhere, or 6 months? Is it a case of keep going until you tick most boxes? Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the key existential problem of the whole thing, isn't it? I don't know that there is much of a goal. I mean, the goal is to have sex, if we're being crude about it, because most of us want to have some kind of intimate physical life. So we meet new people, we find them attractive, we want to have some kind of sexual experience with them. So that's the first thing. And then beyond that, we probably enjoy spending a bit of time with them or whatever. And I don't think that, I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. I don't think I always think that much further ahead, or I certainly haven't in the past. Maybe I do a bit more now because I'm a bit more guarded and I'm a little bit more aware of the, potential pitfalls coming down the line. But I don't know if there is much of a goal, to be honest, unless, and this is the important thing, unless you want to have children, unless you want to have a family. Now, if you want to have kids and you want to have a family, that changes the game, because now you're looking for somebody who could potentially be a good mother for your children. You're looking for somebody that you think, okay, I could build something with. Most guys want that. Most people want that. If that's what you want, then that is the goal, because you've got to then think, all right, so I get all of this stuff about, yes, we want variety, we want different things and blah, blah, blah. But I also want to bring, I want to have a family. I want to have kids. So I'm going to have to put aside my desire for variety, at least for a period of time, and find somebody who I think is the right person to do that with, and then, get together with her and make it work. I think, unless you're able to, people, there are different ways of approaching that. People talk about, having different children with different women, and then maybe living in different places, and you're supporting them financially, and you're not sort of monogamously with either any of these mothers, but you're kind of, they're here and there and everywhere. I think there are different ways of doing it, but for the most part, most people, there's a very good argument, of course, that there should be two parents and you should be in a monogamous relationship, etc. So I think that is the goal, if that's what you want. If it's not particularly what you want, if you're not bothered about having kids, then you are in this kind of existential kind of no man's land of what is the point of these mini relationships. Well, there kind of isn't much of a point, except that, as I said, you probably want to have sex at some point. So there's that. And secondly, these relationships are also the fabric of your life. The people I've dated, the people that I've been intimate with, I've had relationships with, they are a precious part of my experience on this planet, And even if I don't see some of those people anymore and I don't speak to them anymore, they are still part of my brief existence on this planet. And in that sense, they are very important, right? So, I hopefully that kind of answers the question. But I think if you're going hardcore sort of existential about this, what is the point? Well, there kind of isn't. But what's the point of anything? What's the point of me sitting here doing this podcast? What's the point of me, I don't know, going for a walk on the beach? I mean, ultimately, there's not much of a point of anything because we're all going to be dead. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Any more questions, comments, put them in the chat. So Samuel says, I heard you're in Poland for a while. Do you do any approaches and speak some Polish with introduction? I was in Poland for a lot of the summer. I did a lot of approaches, and no, I don't speak any Polish except for Dzień dobry. But Poland's a great place, and most people speak English there, so you don't really need it. I'm an Aussie who's living in Prague for 5 years. Sometimes I think girls lose interest when I only speak English. I'm learning Czech. The girl I'm seeing is Ukrainian, and she hardly speaks any English, and I don't speak any Ukrainian, and we have a very good time together, and we get on very well, and we do a lot on Google Translate, and we can make each other understood. So I don't think that, certainly I've dated quite a number of women where we didn't speak the same language, and it was fine. And I've been in some sort of longer term things with women where we don't speak the same language, and that's been fine as well. I think if you're looking at going super long term, you're looking at getting married or being living together or something, then you're going to have to learn their language. But for the most part, traveling around. I haven't spent loads of time in the Czech Republic, but I have been to Prague a few times. I've been to Poland, I've been to Russia, I've been to Ukraine, whatever, different places. Never learned any of these languages, and it's been fine. So that's my answer. You can certainly, as far as fairly casual dating is concerned, you don't really need to speak these other languages. Right, Alex says, sapiosexuality. I would think if you find a girl like that, it's got a better chance it's not just physical. So this is when they find intellect attractive, right? Is that correct? Raymond says, I think the hardest thing to do is to learn to love yourself. If you don't like yourself, how can you expect others? People sense self-loathing and doubt and find it unattractive or not try. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, you need to, the first thing you need to do with the mindset stuff is you need to think, I'm an awesome proposition for any woman. You've got to believe that, because if you don't believe that, then yeah, as you say, how's anybody else going to believe it? You've got to think that. Objectively, how true is that? Well, I think, as I said, I think we are all engaged in a process of self-improvement, or we should be. We should all be aspiring to the next level. Am I the perfect man? Of course not. Is there a lot of work that I can do in different areas in my life? Yeah, 100%, absolutely. I try to do that every day. Although I haven't been to the gym today because I'm feeling like crap. But yeah, I try to improve in all of the key areas and work towards doing that. You have to be consistently working on yourself to make yourself the best product that you can. But at the same time, you've also got to have a bit of arrogance, not arrogance, but you've also got to think, I am the shit, and it's fine, I believe, to think I am awesome because I'm engaged in self-improvement. Am I where I want to be yet? No, not necessarily, but I'm engaged in self-improvement, and that makes me awesome because I know my potential. I know where I can be. Now, am I there or not yet? Arguably not. Doesn't matter. I'm working every day to getting there. That makes me incredibly valuable. All right? That's how you've got to walk into these interactions. That's correct. Yeah, the sapiosexual thing. What's wrong with spinning plates? I don't think anything's wrong with spinning plates. What's wrong with spinning plates? Yeah, I don't think anything's wrong. I don't know why. I don't know what the question's based on. But I don't think there's anything wrong with spinning plates. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine as long as you're being upfront with people. You're not hurting people. You're not going. You want to try. You want to try. And look, it's difficult. It's really difficult. But you want to try and be as honest and transparent as you can be. You don't want to be going around hurting people. You don't want to be going around sort of making people feel terrible, right? But yeah, I mean, spinning plates or non-monogamous dating it's fine, and that's what a lot of people actually do these days, men and women. What are some tips to get high quality photos on IG? Is it the app stroke camera? Well, you could get professional photos done. Some people get professional photos. I mean, look, on Instagram, personally, I think professional photos can look a bit cringy because you don't want to have these super sort of like, like the male catalog model where he's kind of going like this and stuff like that. You like, it's a bit cringe, I think, but at the same time, you could get a few done, like professional shots. You're looking as good as possible. Here's the thing though, right, about Instagram. I mean, I could be wrong because I'm a boomer, but what it seems to me is that the stories are much more important now than the posts on the wall. Okay. And a lot of women that you meet, we were in Poland and we met a lot of women who were from Ukraine, for example, or Poland, whatever. And you'd have their Instagram and they would have about 3 or 4 pictures on their wall, or sometimes even one picture. And then they would be keeping their Instagram going through the stories. And of course, when you open up Instagram, you see who's posted a story and you watch their stories. So it seems to me, and again, take this with a pinch of salt because I'm not a social media expert and I'm a bit of a boomer, but it seems to me that the stories are becoming much more important than the wall. So my view is you can just have a few cool pictures of yourself on the wall, and then you want to be concentrating more on the stories. And on the stories, you could be showcasing, like, I don't know, like I say, you go to a cool place, you go to a cool restaurant, filming it, putting up pictures, blah, 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 some pictures of yourself, whatever. That seems to be the way forward. For me, broadly speaking, there are 2 ways of playing the Instagram game. One is to have an absolutely huge Instagram, 250,000 plus followers and a blue tick and blah, blah, blah. And there's pictures of you with a Lambo and in front, coming out of expensive hotels and stuff. There's that. And the other way of playing it is to actually have a fairly unimpressive account where you just show, kind of what you're up to, but it's not a super showy kind of fancy account, but you just have it there and you're using it as a communication tool to message women via the DMs. And that is women that you've met in real life. So you meet her in real life and you say, oh, I tell you what, let's connect on Instagram. You follow each other or she follows you on Instagram, and then you use it as a DMing tool. As long as she can see that you're relatively normal, you're not some kind of crazy weirdo, and you've got a few cool things going on in your stories and stuff, that's fine. You don't need to have a super, super amazing Instagram unless you're talking about trying to do Instagram game where you're sliding into the DMs of women that you don't already know. And that's not really something I recommend because it seems to me to just be incredibly random and incredibly sort of. I just can't see that being very successful. You're going to have to do a hell of a lot of messaging in order to make that work. 70% chance of second marriage failure. Well, that's good news, isn't it? He says it was just a rhetorical question. Digital presence. Yeah, he's saying focus on it. Well, yeah. Anyway, where are we? We've done about 55 minutes now. So if anyone's got any further questions, whack them into the chat or comments or anything like that. And as I say, I think we may do one of these tomorrow as well. It might be quite cool to come on Christmas Day. If I do, it's going to be later though, because obviously family stuff going on. I think a lot of people, it's going to depend on time zones, but I think obviously a lot of people have family stuff going on. But later in the day, I think could work quite well. So we might do something at 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. UK time, something like that. Jump on and just do some chat, do some questions and things like that. So I hope that you've found this valuable. If you want to jump on a call with me, and we'll do a free call, talk about your dating situation, talk about how maybe you can move forward if you're feeling a bit stuck, if you're not getting the dates that you want, and you're not maybe you're stuck in some kind of situation, a relationship you're not happy with. You want to move forward. You want to bring different women into your life. You want to have a good time, or whatever it is that you want. Then if you go to the link in the description below, you can book a free call with me. We can jump on a call for 15 minutes and we can have a chat about your situation and try and figure out, okay, can I help you with this? And is there a way forward? All right. So do that. As I say, link is below. And what else? You can grab my books as well. I've got a collection of 11 books called Renegade Dating Blueprint. There's a link below for that as well. So have a look at that. Samuel says, Insta can be good to show you have hobbies. I don't use Insta, but I have a few pictures of my furniture design to show girls I'm normal. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, broadly speaking, something like Instagram, there's two different ways of going here. Either you go super flash, super baller. I've got 500,000 followers. I'm living this baller lifestyle. I'm partying in Miami every night, whatever. That's fine. And that definitely works. But it's going to take you a long time and a lot of work to get there if you're not on that path already. Or you actually have quite a low key Instagram, but it basically shows that you're kind of a normal guy having quite a cool life. I've opted for the latter, right? I've opted not for my Troy Francis one, but just for my. I've got a couple of different accounts here and there, and they're pretty low key, to be honest. I'm not using them to try and be incredibly impressive or anything like that. I'm just using them essentially as a communication tool, and that's kind of it, really. So yeah, but remember, given that I'm not talking about doing Instagram game where you're sliding into random girls' DMs, these are often going to be women that you've met in real life anyway, and then you add them on Instagram as a means of communication. So the approach itself, the conversation that you've already had, will do most of the work for you. Okay, that initial conversation, that initial meet, has done most of the work for you. So yes, it's helpful if your Instagram is quite cool, because that's going to reinforce her impression of you. But the heavy lifting will have been done by the physical in-person meet anyway. All right, and that's the same if you get a phone number or whatever. Right? Really, the in-person approach should be the thing that cements your value in her mind. Okay, then after that, the communication is just the communication. Anyway, hope all that makes sense. As I say, jump on a free call with me. The link is below to get on my Calendly and just book a 15-minute call. And I will see you guys again very soon. Have a fantastic Christmas Eve. Have a fantastic Christmas morning. And I will be back here later on